Positive wisdom, positive ways to enhance your life. So, again, my name is Denise Salisbury. I am the host of Positive Wisdom Talks, as well as the creator of Positive Wisdom, which is it started off as a social media group where we really are showcasing all types of positive experiences, affirmation. The group tries to keep it as positive as possible. We have so much going on in the world. We want to showcase all of those wonderful things that are happening. And so what I like to also do is share with you people that I meet along the way. You know, I'm not a stranger to anyone, so I don't have a problem going up and saying, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love for you to be on the show." So this morning, I am blessed to bring to the platform Dr. Tommy Watson. So I discovered Dr. Watson on Facebook. I went through the page. I looked to see that he had a story about resilience. And you all know I love a good story about a comeback. And so when I started reading through some of his obstacles and things that he's had to overcome in life, I was just totally blown away. So it's just absolutely amazing that he has agreed to join me this morning. I'm super excited to bring him on. So I'm not going to give a whole lot of other background, but I'm going to tell you one thing. He's got a connection to Goldsboro, North Carolina. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let him tell you what that's about. But anyway, I am pleased to present to you Dr. Tommy Watson.
Denise, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm doing fantastic.
Listen, I'm so excited that you answered the call. And then as we started talking, understanding that we had a lot more in common.
Yeah.
But I'm just grateful that you're here. You've got a powerful message. I know some people are very familiar with you. They've heard your message, but to me, stuff like this never gets old because we always need some type of motivation. And if you want to be motivated today, I think this is the man to do it. So,
I appreciate the accolades. You pumped me up big time, Denise. I'm feeling good over here. I'm feeling good.
All right. So, Dr. Watson, why don't you give us a little bit of your own introduction? Tell us who you are.
Hey, again, thank you, Denise, for having me on. And if I was feeling any better this morning, I would be Denise Salisbury. So I'm not quite as great as she is, though. So, again, it's an honor to be on with you. My connection to Goldsboro. My wife just happens to be from that same small, I tell a little country town as well.
Wait a minute.
I know. Y'all have one of the best Memorial Day reunions in the country, probably the world. So I'll give you that right there. But it's still a small country town, though. But it's a place I love. And again, I appreciate you having me on. So, Denise, I'm originally from my hometown is Denver, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in Denver's first black neighborhood, which was called 5 Points there. And, unfortunately, growing up there, my mother and father were drug addicts and shoplifters. So they were heroin addicts and shoplifters. So they didn't work jobs. My dad, as I think back over my life, I remember my dad maybe working 3 days. 3 days. Yeah, that's not a lot. So as a result of them being drug addicts and shoplifters, my siblings and I paid a heck of a price. By the time I finished high school, my mother and father were arrested 121 times. So as kids, we spent a lot of time in foster homes, crisis centers, motel rooms, bouncing around from place to place to place. Between my second and third grade year of school, I went to 4 different elementary schools in 1 year. I had a learning disability I didn't know anything about at the time, so I struggled with school. My teachers didn't believe me. I didn't believe in myself. I remember even meeting my oldest brother by pure coincidence in a foster home in second grade, Denise. We were in this foster home, and this kid comes over to visit with his mother, and by coincidence, my 2 older sisters remembered him. And that was the first time I'd ever met my oldest brother coming to a foster home we were in by pure coincidence. It was mind blowing. And by the time I was in third grade, I went through so many challenges and changes. that my only goal as a third grader, Denise, was to join the local Crips with hopes of leading the local Crips because I had so much hurt and pain inside of me. And I remember thinking to myself that I wanted other people to feel what I was feeling. And I remember those thoughts came to me after going to see my mother. So when I was in second grade, my mother and father, they would leave me and my brother and sisters for days by ourselves. So we were in this house, and we were basically taking care of ourselves. My older sister was in sixth grade. The other one was in fifth grade. I was in second grade. My little brother was in first grade, and we had a 1-year-old baby sister. And we were basically raising our 1-year-old baby sister. My sixth grade sister would stay at home with my baby sister while we went to school, not to learn, but to steal food. And we would go to school to steal food and bring it back home so my sisters could eat. We would go to the grocery stores on the weekend and steal food, run out there with cupcakes and chips, run out the emergency exit door so my sisters could eat. And we were basically raising my little sister. And I remember we found ourselves in a situation where we were placed in this foster home, and we were separated from my little baby sister. And that really killed my spirit. So by the time I arrived at my aunt's door in third grade, I was very wounded. I was very angry. And my only goal was to join the local Crips. And I thought that that's what I was going to do. My aunt was pretty smart. She got me involved in basketball. And basketball literally saved my life because everything I was looking for in the world of gangs, I received from playing basketball: a sense of belonging, a chance to connect with other kids who had similar goals and dreams, and a great male mentor coach. So basketball became my everything. By my seventh grade year of school, Denise, I was back with my mother and father for about 2 years. We found ourselves in another very difficult situation. It was a beautiful sunny day in the city of Denver. It was the summertime before my 8th grade year of school. We're now renting a house in the neighborhood that sat on the corner, big house. And I'm at home watching my favorite show, and suddenly there's a knock at the door. And I go to the door, and to my surprise, there stood the police and local sheriffs. I'm like, wow, why are you here? Well, they had informed me that my parents had not been paying rent, had not paid the rent. We had to get out. And I'm like, get out? I'm like, you mean in like 60 days, right? I said, no. I said, you mean in like 30 days, right? They said, no. I said, so when are we supposed to get out? They said, right now. I said, right now? I said, where are we supposed to go? They said, that's not our problem. And I just kept saying, so where are we supposed to go? They went into our house and started taking all of our stuff and started throwing it into the front yard. I just kept saying, so where are we supposed to go? I finally mustered up the courage to leave the house with my siblings, and we left. I remember walking down the stairs, and I took a moment to look up as I'm hearing everything being thrown in the yard behind me breaking. And there were all my friends on their porches, laughing, giggling, making jokes to the lowest point of my life. And there was a piece of me that wanted to break down and start crying right then and there. But I kept it together. Later on that evening, I couldn't keep it together, Denise, as the folks from the neighborhood went into our yard and took everything we owned, and there was nothing we can do about it. From there, my family of 9 of us then moved into a motel. It was our 7th motel room. We stayed my entire 8th grade year of school. 9 people, 1 room, 2 beds for my entire 8th grade year of school, 1 bathroom. You talk about a place that can kill your spirit. That was a place that could kill my spirits. But the thing that kept me going during that time was sports. I ran into a guy from a private suburban Denver high school, came to the inner cities of Denver to talk to me and my comrades about a chance of going out to this high school, private suburban high school, Catholic school in the suburbs. He told us that we can possibly go out there and go to college. And I said, whoa, you mean a kid from my neighborhood can go to college? Because at this point in time, most of the black males in my neighborhood were dying early, addicted to drugs, selling drugs, gang banging, getting arrested. So I said, this is going to be my out. But I also knew out of the 15 guys on the team, my parents were probably going to be the ones who weren't going to support me going out to the school. So I decided not to tell them I was going to get my grades together. So in 7th grade, I was getting D's and F's. I finally got my grades together, took the test to get into school. I became the 1-1 basketball champion. My school got on the honor roll. This was all while living in that motel room. I won an award that was given to a handful of kids in the entire state of Colorado. And I went and finally told my mother and father about the transfer out to the school, and their response was, no, boy, you're not going out to white school. And I remember being devastated, like, what am I going to do now? Well, at the end of my 8th grade year of school, my mother and father were going back to prison again. And me and my little brother and little sister now moved in with my other grandmother who came out of retirement to take care of us. She moved us into the heart of our neighborhood, which was now being called Little Compton because of all the gang members that migrated from LA and were now in Denver, doing everything in Denver that they were doing in LA. So it's my grandmother's wish that I go out to high school and do well every day. So starting every morning at 6:30 in the morning, I took 3 city buses one way to high school every day. And then I would do the same thing on the way back when sports was over with after school. And I get home anywhere between 8 and 10 o'clock at night. private suburban Denver high school. The white kids were afraid of us because they were constantly seeing our neighborhood on the news. I did this for a number of years. By my junior year of high school, Denise, my grandmother had developed Alzheimer's disease, had to be placed into a nursing home. In the meantime, my little brother got heavily involved in gangs and taking a gun to school, attempted to shoot a kid in school, was shipped off to juvenile prison. My older brother was now coming back around because he had ties to the same gangs as my little brother. My mother was now on her way out of prison, was no longer doing drugs, got herself together, but no one would give her a second chance when it came to employment. So my mom eventually turned to selling drugs to take care of us. And in the middle of my senior year of high school, she got busted for selling drugs and was on her way back to prison again. And during this time, I didn't have anywhere to stay. I bounced around from place to place to place. I found myself homeless. A friend and family finally came through and said, hey, I'll let you sleep on my floor, but you got to be out come May. And I struggled with school because I had a learning disability. I struggled. I barely got a 2.0. I left Denver. My family put me on a Greyhound bus nearly 30 years ago and went off to the University of Minnesota to play football. I got there, Denise, University of Minnesota, which is the second largest college in the country behind Ohio State, had never had a student athlete come there with my circumstances. I got there. My mom was in prison. My dad was in prison. My little brother was in prison. My grandmother, who's my last legal guardian, was in a nursing home. My oldest brother was back there gang banging. My older sister's back there in crack cocaine. My second oldest sister was in foster care in Iowa. My little sister lived with my aunt. Between my junior and senior of high school, I lived in 5 different locations and spent the last 6 months homeless, sleeping on the floor of a friend of the family. So I got to the University of Minnesota. I didn't want anyone to know my story, Denise. I was never going to share my story. But you know that saying, but God, right?
But God, I was waiting to interject, but God.
But God, I got that injury. Football didn't work out, and it forced me to deal with my demons from my past. And I began to come to grips with Tommy Watson and my story, began to forgive my parents for, what I perceived, what they did in terms of being harmful to me. And ended up graduating, and I said, I'm going to write a book about my story. Well, the first time I told my story, Denise, I shared it in the newspaper. And I remember one of my grandmother's sisters, she was 92 years old. And if you did something that Aunt Edie didn't like, she would type up a letter and mail it to you in the mail. Fortunately, to that point, I never received a letter. But when she heard that I was going to tell my story, boy, she typed up a letter and sent me that letter. She said, don't you be telling our family secrets.
That's right. I
call Aunt Edie. I said, all due respect, Aunt Edie, I appreciate your letter and everything. But what you have to understand is me telling my stories about two things. It's about me healing. I said, you're not here with me when I was going through a couple of years ago, my sophomore year of college, contemplating suicide, crying myself to sleep each night, So it's about healing and it's about helping other people. It's not about shaming. It's not about blaming. It's not about being a victim or anything else. And if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. I'll still be your nephew, but we're probably not going to communicate though.
Mm-hmm.
But, I told her that and, she came to grips with it over the years, went on to become a school principal and, left my job as a principal 11 years ago, started my own business. I written a movie that was award-winning short film that was featured in 2019. And now I'm in the process of sharing my story with the executives in Hollywood for a TV series. So that's kind of my journey so far. I appreciate you allowing me to share that with you, though. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I had to allow you to tell that story uninterrupted because I will jump in, but I needed to hear how you are able to recall, because I know you've told this story a number of times, but I needed to watch you recall those moments and list all of those obstacles, all of those things that at those individual moments could have taken you totally out.
Absolutely.
Could have taken you off this road. Yeah. Any of those issues, not having a home, being in the second hotel room.
Seven.
No, but I'm saying at the second one, you could have been like, I'm done.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. When the first sibling went away and left your life, when your mom did what happened in her, any of those events were catastrophic enough for you to say, I'm done. Yeah. But you stuck through a catastrophic event after catastrophic event after catastrophic event in order to get to where you are today. Yeah. And so many times people see where a person is and they have no idea, because it's not just about, Tommy Watson going from, having a bad childhood or to now where he is. I mean, there's so many layers of things that have to take place for you to be where you are today.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about healing,
Yeah.
and you talk about dealing with demons, because yes, now you're out of that situation. See, people sometimes think, okay, we're going to put the lipstick on the pig. It's still a pig.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay, we're going to bandage this dude up. We're going to put him in college. And he's good now because now he got somewhere to stay. Yeah. Now he got somebody to watch over him.
Yeah.
But how did you deal with what you just went through?
Yeah. And that's a great question, great perspective. You know, one of the things I tell people, Denise, that it's different. There's a difference between growing up in poverty and growing up homeless. See, my friends who were in poverty grew up in the projects, and they were in the same projects for many years. Now, I'm not saying it was easy, you know, single parent household or what have you, though. But when you grew up homeless and you bounced around from motel rooms, the school didn't have my address, no telephone numbers. None of my friends had my address, no telephone numbers. We weren't eating in the motel room. We were in one room. Our clothes were dirty. There was no government assistance. And the thing about when you're in those low-income motel rooms, the owners of the motel rooms know the game. They know what the folks are involved in. So I remember in second grade, Denise, we came to this motel room we were living in. And my dad tried to put the key in the door, and the door would not open. And the owner basically changed the lock on the motel room. And he told us to get off his property because my parents had not paid the rent. And again, he was able to do that. We weren't able to call the police because my parents were involved in criminal activities. They took all of our stuff. We had to walk away from that motel room and simply get in the car and go down the street to the next motel room and start all over again with only what we only had on our backs. So when you talk about what drove me early on was I had a disdain for that life. I never came to a place, Denise, where I said this is going to be my future. I remember looking in 8th grade, looking around that motel room. It was a 10 by 16 foot motel room, 9 people in the motel room, 2 beds. My mom and dad still doing heroin. My grandma and her boyfriend doing alcohol. My older sister and her boyfriend doing crack cocaine. All of our clothes still wrapped in the corner sheets. They were dirty and filthy. Denise, there was never, ever a moment in me that said, this is going to be my future. This is it. I didn't know what the future was going to be, though. But I was saying, this cannot be it. And it was painful. It was painful, man. I cried many days. So, you know, when you talk about 2 things that were motivating me early on, it was the fear of being like my parents. My parents, I would literally see them come in sober and go in the bathroom and shoot up heroin and come out like zombies. That scared me. I would see my grandmother and her boyfriend drinking themselves unconscious, and then my older sister and her boyfriend doing crack cocaine. That stuff scared me.
Yes.
It wasn't until I tapped into so there's 2 ways people are motivated. You're motivated by either fear or opportunity. So once I got the opportunity to connect with my passion around sports, I became driven to get to the NFL. And I became obsessed with trying to get to the NFL. Now, I didn't get to the NFL, but I got to a place where I got a Division I scholarship to play football and got hurt my junior year. And at that point in time, I said it may behoove me to get a degree. So, you know, even though I didn't make it to that goal to be there, though, it got me to a different place where it gave me a chance to rise above my circumstances. So again, people are motivated by fear or opportunity. Fear can only take you so long.
That's right.
At some point in time, it has to turn to passion and purpose in life. So my purpose became around sports, leadership, resiliency, and all those things. Also,
awesome. You just said something about fear will run out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so many times, we're pushed into doing something because we are fearful.
Yes.
So now you've taken it and you said, okay, now I'm not scared anymore. Fear's gone.
Yeah.
The injury.
Yeah.
Because I know at that point you probably felt like I'm on a road now.
Yeah.
I'm making it. I'm going towards my goal.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you get hurt.
Yes. Do
you ever feel like this is where I'm destined to be?
Yeah.
Just coming out.
Yeah. Before I got injured, my goals for going to the NFL became very selfish, Denise. It was about getting money. It was about all the superficial stuff that many young people coming from the inner cities or even, places of poverty where they don't have anything strive to get to the NFL. It was about all those superficial things. And once I got hurt and those superficial things went bye-bye, it made me come to grips with who is Tommy Watson really? People see me as the football player, this tough guy, all this other stuff. But who am I really? And Denise, I didn't know who I was. And it wasn't until I went back home to Denver and my mother and I were driving my older brother's minivan, picking up his girlfriend. Think about how many times you pull up in front of the house, Denise, and you just pull up and you go inside the house. We pulled up in front of the house. I'm trying to literally parallel park the minivan we're in. And I noticed it was a black Cherokee at the corner. It turned and started coming our way. And I'm still trying to parallel park this minivan. And suddenly Denise, I started hearing pop, pop, boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. And it was gunshots. And I'd heard gunshots before, but something in my mind was like, you better get down. That's when the glass started shattering on this minivan. And I'm thinking I'm about to die. So my foot on the brake, I moved towards the middle of the van. I'm covering up my head and chest area because I'm thinking I'm getting ready to take a bullet. Hopefully I won't take a bullet in these areas right here, though. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm about to die. And the gunshots had stopped. I remember getting up and to see if I had been shot. And thank God I hadn't been. Mm-hmm. I looked over for my mother. My mother was not moving in the passenger side. And I began to panic. And she popped up. She was fine. The young lady back popped up. We stepped away from the minivan. The van was shot from front, two shooters, front to back. And there was a bullet that was lodged in the bottom window of the driver's door, Denise, that was meant to kill me. That moment changed me. And I said, I got to go back to Minnesota. And again, I'm in college. I'm home from a spring break. Mm-hmm. I went back to the University of Minnesota. And they're like, what are you going back to? And that forced me to start saying, I got to find out who Tommy Watson is, because at that point, it was about everyone else and what everyone else thought of me, though. And I became on this journey and this mission to really find out, do some soul searching, to discover who Tommy Watson was. So that injury, that drive-by shooting, ended up being one of the greatest blessings that occurred in my life, Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, I'm trying to get this, is that you don't know what it might take for you to find out what you needed to find out.
Absolutely.
And who knows, these lessons may have come, because I see them all as lessons, even though they're catastrophic lessons.
Absolutely.
But these lessons had to come because of the amount of success that is on the horizon for you.
Yes.
You not only worked through the injury, graduated from college, went on to attend graduate school, ended up with a PhD, or, principal at a school. You gravitated towards children. Yeah. Tell me about that journey. What made you go in the direction of children? I mean, I can logically think about what made you do that, but was there anything in particular that made you say, I got to go back and start here?
Absolutely. Great question. When we think a lot of the ills in our society that we see in terms of our communities suffering with, a lot of the foundational pieces are spiritual, but also they are educational as well. So, before I got into the school system, I was actually working with a housing organization. I remember there was a lady who came in with 6 kids, and she was just in a domestic violence situation. She was looking for housing. Mm-hmm. We had to put this lady on a 6-month waiting list. It broke my heart. So I began to ask the question, how can I contribute to the solution and be on the front end of this? You definitely can't stop domestic violence in any form or shape or form, though. But I was thinking to myself, what can I do to help individuals get more resources, also increase their opportunity for higher income. Mm-hmm. And it was the school system. I said, we got to take advantage of the school system because, again, when you learn, I tell kids all the time, though, when you learn more, you have the ability to earn more. Mm-hmm. So you got to take school seriously, and in the U.S., we're one of the few countries in the world that provides a free education when it comes to K-12 education. Mm-hmm. There are some countries where kids are selected and handpicked to go into education, even from families. There are some kids, the brother may not be able to go, but the sister may be able to go. So I tell kids, you got to take advantage of this free opportunity here because that education opportunity was the thing that began to level the playing field for me and open up doors for opportunity. Now, again, once I got in the school system, I was a principal at 32. I left by the time I was 36. Mm-hmm. And part of it was because I was tired of dealing with all the politics of it. I just wanted to make a difference in the lives of kids and adults. And I wanted to I didn't want to have to deal with 15 committees to do the right thing for kids, Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm leaving. I'm going to become an entrepreneur and I'm going to do those things from the outside. And thank God I've been able to have more of an influence, probably as an outsider than I had when I was in the education system itself. So I'm able to go in and share strategies with students and teachers and families. Mm-hmm. and go home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I noticed that you have a platform as well where you interview guests
Yes.
and they share their stories of resilience.
Yes.
What does storytelling mean for you? What does it mean for your audience?
That's great. Another great question, Denise. I did my master's thesis on the impact of stories. Think about it. Stories is the one thing that connects all of us across the board, no matter your racial background, your economic status. Stories are everywhere in our society, and we learn to hear about stories from a young age. And I tell people, if you don't know the impact and power of stories, pay attention next time you're in a group of people and someone starts telling a story. Watch how everyone else begins to become engaged and intrigued with what that person is saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's a power that comes with stories. So stories become a great way to transfer information. And the information that people are transferring in my podcast about resilient stories, it's all about sharing how they made it out of some of the most darkest moments. Because oftentimes, like you said before, we see people at their best or at their perceived best.
Yes.
We don't know the journey that it's taken for someone to go about coming out of those darkest moments. There was one lady on my show. She said, Denise, she was in an abandoned house with 6 kids in Atlanta. And I asked her, I said, in your darkest moment, what kept you going? And she said, Dr. Watson, I had 12 eyes watching me. She said, I did not give up.
Mm-hmm.
So every one of us in our darkest moment, there is a why that we can discover to keep us going. I like to tell people I come across, I said, you know what? As tough as your life has been, you have actually survived 100% of your toughest moments.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you haven't walked out with scars, but you have survived them.
Absolutely.
So what are the lessons you have learned from those moments, and how can you take those lessons and share them and utilize them with other people as well?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the purpose of my podcast, Resilient Stories. Yes.
Awesome. And the thing about it is, what people don't seem to understand is there is no destination. You're still on a journey.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, you're still going through, and although those things are in your past, they are still a part of you. I am sure there's still some moments of pain.
Absolutely.
There's still some moments you have to, dig through and get into what that was for you to be able to recall those issues. I know it sounds like it's just mechanical, but you actually live through those things, which means that there is residue.
Absolutely.
And people seem to forget that. They think that their success means that they get to erase all that is done. They've arrived. They really don't have to do work. Do you continue to work on Dr. Tommy Watson?
Absolutely.
Just Tommy. Do you continue to work on Tommy?
It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey. And I'll tell you, every time I get a chance to tell my story, Denise, I get a chance to have new discoveries about my journey as well, though, because there's so much learning that takes place. I don't think we ever get to a place where we simply have arrived, like you said before. I tell my wife when I die, the only thing I want on my tombstone is when I think about my story, I can't help but to give him glory.
Yes.
Man, you know, and every time I think about my journey, it tears me up sometimes to think about where he's brought me from. I mean, there was times I was going back, Denise, and I was editing my book, and I'm saying, wow, you made it through that. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people walk away from a drive-by shooting? How many people walk away, with some sense of normalcy coming out of foster homes and crisis centers and motel rooms? And, and certainly I made a lot of bad decisions not favorable decisions on the way, but those were learning moments for me as well, though. But everything we do in life becomes learning moments. So I don't think we ever get to a place, Denise, where we fully just say, hey, I figured it out. Because the moment you got to get to a place where you say you figured it out, you're now losing.
Yes.
Yeah. Life is about being a lifelong learner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a classroom.
Yes. Absolutely.
You are forever trying to just pass tests. That's
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
So I am just, again, I know everybody's listening to the story in the beginning. They're like, but this is positive wisdom. I don't hear anything positive coming out of this story. But if you see the man on this screen, you'll know that he is a walking, living testimony of the goodness of how God can just take you out of situations that you're just like, nobody is surviving those kind of situations, and put you in a space where you can share. Look, I've been through some of the worst of the worst. And
Absolutely.
I'm still able to rise above. I'm still able to treat people well. I don't have to mistreat people
Absolutely.
because I was mistreated. I
Absolutely.
don't have to be addicted because I was in a family of addiction. I don't have to have my family out here doing whatever because I was doing that.
Yes.
I can rise above and I can be different.
Right.
I am
Denise, can I make this point real quick?
sure. Go
Sometimes
ahead.
when we think about pain and purpose, we see them as at opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tell people pain and purpose are twins. They coexist together.
Mm-hmm.
You appreciate the purpose you got in life because of the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Your pain helps you discover your purpose. So they're not at two opposite ends. They coexist in everything we do. So again, you got to embrace both because, like you said before, even in the pain, there are lessons that you got to learn to
Yes.
help you get to your purpose. And you
And
never get to your purpose without the pain.
yes, I agree, Tommy. And I also want to say this because, I like to get into real conversation mode. So in the practicality of our lives today, we see so many people, I'm just going to be totally honest,
Yes.
who don't want to deal with their pain.
Yes.
They mask it. They
Mhm.
drinking. They're partying all the time. They're manizing and womanizing. They're doing all types of things except for dealing with
Yes.
what has caused them to be in spaces where they can't form good relationships with
Absolutely.
people, whether they're working relationships, familiar relationships, romantic relationships. And so, what do you say to those people who just refuse to deal with the past, or who say, "I don't want to talk about that"? That's in the past. I just want to get past. What do you say to those people?
I had a pastor who used to give the statement all the time. He said, wherever you go, no matter where you go to, there you are. So even though you may not necessarily be talking about your pain and your problems of your past, wherever you go, they're with you. Those moments are with you. So one of the best things you can do is begin to reflect back. I have people all the time do a letter to your younger self. Talk about some of your toughest times. Write a letter to your younger self. What would you tell your younger self when your younger self was going through your most difficult moment? And obviously you have made it through that difficult moment today. Again, not unscathed. You have some wounds, but give yourself some advice. As that 5-year-old child who was wounded, sexual abuse, physical abuse, foster homes, whatever the pain may be, go back and give yourself some advice today based upon what you know. When you do that, as you're giving advice to your younger self, what you'll discover is that there are people who are still living in those moments today. There is a 5-year-old kid out there today who's been abused,
Yes.
assaulted, living in foster homes, who needs to hear your advice. So, as you're walking through society trying to be all you can be for others, spend the time developing yourself so you can be all that you can be for you. Because God has put us each on this earth with a purpose. He's given us a story that may be different from someone else's. He's given us some experiences and some insights that may be different from someone else's. And you got to utilize them to the best of who you are. You were not put on this earth to simply just follow around and be on social media portraying something that you're not. It's okay to be happy if you're genuinely happy on social media, but there are gonna be some days where things are tough, But we have a lot of folks who with social media can portray something out there that they're really not.
That is correct
as well. So take the time to discover who you are. There's some lessons, and there's some blessings in those lessons. There's some lessons in those rejections. So stay fired up. And I tell people, learn how to see the good in the goodbyes that you've experienced, whether the goodbyes be relationships, the physical goodbye that I had to endure, Denise, when I left Denver, Colorado on that Greyhound bus, Denise. And I was leaving the terminal, Denise. And I remember that Greyhound bus going through my neighborhood. And I'm looking at all these monumental places. Denise, there was something that hit me in my stomach that said, Denver will never be home to you again.
Yes.
It made me cry. Even when I said it today, it just brought me to tears because that's the only thing I knew.
Yes.
Something in my spirit said, this will never be home again. I didn't know at the time that saying goodbye to Denver, the good that came out of it was because I began to get open to a whole nother world that existed beyond 5 Points in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
So I met people who I would have never met in 5 Points in Denver, Colorado. So I began to see the good in saying goodbye. And it was painful. And again, if you've been in a harmful relationship, you got to be able to see the good in saying goodbye and know that there are lessons to be learned. And that, when God shuts one door, he's opening up something greater down the way for you as well. So,
Yeah.
that's very important to know.
That is awesome. Now, you've given me something to take away. Well, lots of things to take away, but absolutely there's a good in goodbye.
Yes.
And so we've got to hold on to that. I always talk about rejection as protection,
Yes.
not understanding why, God doesn't care that we don't understand.
Absolutely.
He doesn't really care about that because he knows the plans he has for us.
That's right.
So he's like, listen, I know where you got to go. So I know right now you don't understand it. I know, and it's okay because where I have you going is so much greater.
Yes.
So just brace yourself. Trust me. Know that I've got you. Let me ask you, did you trust God when you were younger? Did you know God?
You know what, Denise? I had a praying grandmother. We went to church oftentimes. However, our church experiences were not often pleasant. We were the kids who were coming in from the different neighborhood with the middle class Black families who were looking down on us because we were coming in on the church bus. And my aunt was coming in she was coming to church with 6 kids. 3 of them weren't hers. And me and my little brother were highly unruly. So a lot of the folks looked down on us in the churches. And so my early memories of the church were not pleasant. I always believed in God, always had high reverence for God. But I remember there was a moment when I was in college and one of my teammates said, after I told him my story, he said, man, God has been looking out for you. I said, I don't know about that, bro. I said, God has been looking out for me. Tommy Watson wouldn't have went through blah, 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 blah. And he said, despite that, you're still here. And I said, wow, what a change of perspective.
Yes.
What a change of perspective. So sometimes, Denise, it's a matter we need to change our perspective on things. When we're going through tough times versus saying, woe me, start asking yourself, what are the questions God is trying to teach me in this? What are the lessons that I need to learn? Because now you're going through it with a different lens. So once I begin to discover that, Denise, my perspective and appreciation for where God has brought me to has been enormous. I'm not a highly religious person, but I am a highly spiritual person. So I can thank God like nobody's business in terms of where he's brought me to. Again, a lot of the folks who I grew up watching in church were very religious people. They were very judgmental. They were very hypocritical. And again, there are moments where we all probably have some of those things as well. But, in the church environment, that really turned me away from it oftentimes because they weren't living what they were preaching. So, and again, we're all imperfect human beings, but it's okay. Tell people you're an imperfect human being. You don't have to go through life trying to portray to be something you're not. We all have flaws.
That's right.
We all have flaws. We're all wounded,
Amen.
And it's okay to be wounded. One of my song called Resilient for my movie became my theme song. When I was writing a song for that, I was thinking about what the hook will say. And it dawned on me when I was listening to this beat. It says, my scars tell me over and over that I survived it over and over. My scars tell me that I'm alive. So when you look at those scars on you sometimes aren't scars to tell you that you were meant to die, but as a reminder that you survived.
That you were meant to live. Amen.
You survived it. Celebrate that. It's a matter of change in perspective.
Yes.
You have change of perspective.
You know what? That powerful. Yeah. And this is when you know that something is meant to be. Yeah. Because I just had this conversation with someone and we talked about information and from a medical perspective and how sometimes the doctors can say 5% of these people get this, 5% of these people get that, 10% of these people, they get this. But what about the 95% who don't?
That's right. That's right.
The 90% who don't.
That's right. That's right.
So instead of looking at the 5% who do and the 10% who do, right, I'm looking at the 90% and the 95%.
That's right. Absolutely.
So perspective is everything.
Yes, absolutely. It's a matter, you're going to see the good or you're going to see the bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I did positive wisdom was because people always look at me as like this Pollyanna person. Uh-huh. Always so positive. You always see it's a choice.
Yes. Yes.
Be clear. I get upset.
Yes.
I get frustrated. Sometimes I have days when I am, 2 days, 3 days back to back where I'm
Mhm.
negative.
Mm-hmm.
I choose
That's
positivity.
right. That's right.
I choose to wake up and say, you know what? Even though I don't feel good,
That's
I
right.
still have stuff I have to do.
That's right. Absolutely.
Even though I don't want to go down this road, I still have to go down this road.
Mm-hmm.
Being positive, you have to train your mind
Yes.
to be in that space.
Yes.
Your mind is automatically defaulted to
Mhm.
wherever it is you're used to being.
That's right.
So if you're used to complaining, that's what you're going to get up and you're going to do every day. If you're used to not seeing things from a positive perspective, that's what you're going to do. But if you say to yourself, you know what would happen if every day I just woke up and I just thought about something positive?
That's right.
Or I just got a positive affirmation. Or what if
Yeah.
I woke up every day and I just talked to God, even
Yeah.
if it's for 3 minutes?
Denise, and what you're saying is so powerful. I want people to know this out there, that one of the things that happens with our mind is so powerful. Okay. One of the things that happens with our mind, whenever our mind hears a word, our mind converts the word into pictures. So our mind doesn't convert words into verbiage. It converts it to pictures. So you got to be very, very, very careful of the words that you say and the words that you allow other people to say in your mind, speaking to your life, because those words become images in your mind. And what you see in your mind is going to eventually become your outcome. So everything and think about this. We are all the fruits of the seeds that we planted and nurtured over our lives. So
Mm-hmm.
how we're living today, like it or not, has been based upon the thoughts that we have placed in our minds and that we have nourished over the years. So if we want a new outcome,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta create and plant new seeds and nourish new thoughts. But
Yes.
everything we see on the outside is a reflection of who we are on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a millionaire who has a show out there. Her name is Dr. Venus Opal Reese, I believe it is. She has a show called Hot Mess Millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
She refers to herself as Hot Mess. When you hear her story, she said she became a millionaire, but she was still a hot mess. She was not happy. So again, what you see on the inside is going to become a reflection on the outside. So we have to speak the positive things that we want to become. Those positive wisdom that we talk about, we got to speak those things and put them in action so they can reflect a life that is very pleasing to us and
Yes.
very pleasing to our God as well.
Amen. Amen. So listen, we're getting ready to kind of wrap things up. I would hope that if anybody has any questions for Dr. Watson, feel free to put them in the chat. We've had a robust conversation this morning. We just appreciate all that he's brought to Positive Wisdom. So are there any questions out there for Dr. Watson? I want to put how they can reach out to you or they can follow you.
Absolutely.
So I'll put that in the chat.
You can go to tawatson.com. tawatson.com. All my contact information is there. All my social media is there as well. Love to reach out to you. Love to support you. And great job with the work you're doing. I can talk about this stuff all day long.
I know you can, and so can I. So can I. The other thing we have in common is we're both educators. Yes. I also work for a school system, among other things that I do. Yes. But I do have to say that, I got into education because I did want to make a difference.
Yes.
In the lives of children and in families. And sometimes we get so caught up in other things rather than that purpose.
Right.
And I'm hoping that our systems will really start to, thank God we have individuals that make up the system, because we can truly say that individuals, those teachers, those administrators, those leaders that are passionate about children are really trying to get things done in spite of in spite of some of the politics we have to endure. Absolutely. So I'm glad that you're able to reach out from the outside in and do more from that perspective, because it makes a major difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I see someone asked about my book. Yes. The book is called A Face of Courage. So with an A on the front, because there's another book called Face of Courage. So mine is A Face of Courage. and also The Resilience of Champions, which talks about the lessons that I learned from growing up in the situation I grew up in. It's a great question.
Awesome. So we got some books out. You talked about your movie real quick. You want to tell us about the movie?
So the short film is called Resilient. It's won 7 awards around the world, actually, as of now. It's not public because it's still involved in film festivals around the country. But I'm also pitching my TV series, which is called Resilient Below Poverty. And what I want to do with the TV series is really shed the light on that there's a world below poverty that many people, even in poverty, haven't experienced when it comes to homelessness. So, and we both are educators. The McKinney-Vento Act talks about kids who are in our system who are homeless. We have about 2 million kids in the U.S. who are homeless. Those are kids who are living in shelters, motel rooms, foster homes, and a small number are on the streets. But I tell people that's a different beast when you're living in those circumstances. Think about this for a minute. If you're in a shelter, most shelters require people to leave during the daytime. So if you're a student, you've been suspended from school, where are you going to go during the daytime? If you're
now, think about now with COVID.
Right. Where you closed. Or if I'm in the shelter or the motel room, and now I'm doing virtual learning, if the motel room has Wi-Fi, and now the teachers are complaining about me not turning on my camera. And I tell teachers this, sometimes we get caught up worrying about the wrong things.
Yes.
The kid is there online. Engage them. Some kids don't have the capacity. They're going to be highly embarrassed by turning on the camera in my motel room, in my shelter, or whatever it may be, though. But I'm here. I'm doing something, I've logged on.
Yeah.
See that as a victory. But be very, very, it's easy for kids. When I come to your school, you don't know what my home situation is like. You may have some ideas based upon how I'm dressed or whatever, though. But if I have to turn that camera on my motel room, you get a very clear sense of what my home life is like.
That
which
is
makes me very different. Yeah.
Tommy, I will say this. This just popped in my head. Sometimes I have some really great ideas that pop in my head, right? So systems are mean sameness.
Yes.
They are created with the idea that everyone is the same.
Right. Absolutely.
But what we've got to, and that's the reason why we're having such difficulty in our systems, is because we are now beginning to pull back the layers of the differences that are making up the people in the systems.
Yes.
So when school systems were created, or when a school was everyone was the same. Everyone comes in, they do the same thing. The expectations are the same for everyone. Right. But we don't operate in that anymore. Right. We're not operating in that. Like you said, people are sitting in hotel rooms, homeless shelters, abusive situations. Right. There was just a gunshot that just came through the window. Parents they haven't seen in a few days. Right. There's so many things that are plaguing our and let's not even just talk about poverty. There are kids who are very affluent,
absolutely,
who are struggling and in abusive situations where parents are not available, not around, leaving them, throwing money and saying, "Okay, I'm gone for a few weeks. Fend for yourself." So we see things on so many ends of the spectrum.
Denise, you brought up a good point about the differences. Sometimes in our schools have been made to make those who are minorities believe that differences mean less than. So for some time, we've been operating thinking, okay, just because my cultural norms are maybe connected to my African American heritage, there's this piece there that's makes it less than because it's not Eurocentric. And we got to know and embrace that difference doesn't necessarily mean less than. And one of the things that's plaguing our society right now, we're starting to see this uproar in our society, Denise, with a lot of folks who are upset because things in the U.S., our nation, are changing. And this is why I tell people, here's the real irony of white supremacy, okay? I said, if white supremacists really believe that they were better than you, superior than African Americans, other groups, all they would have to do is level the playing field and show everyone what's up. They are not going to do that because that premise of white supremacy is a construct. Yeah, they don't believe it. So that's why they want America to be great again. That's why they want to continue the advantages they've had.
Mm-hmm.
Because for many of them, they don't believe that they have the capability to perform and compete on a level playing field.
Yes.
So we have to know that the narrative that's been told to us has been a lie. And we're more than capable of doing so many things beyond just sports.
Yes.
It's good, but we can do so much beyond sports.
Amen. Amen. Listen, we got to have you back.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we got to have you back. And I'm just, like I said, I am so excited that I ran across your profile. And this is, people are like, oh, social media is just social. Oh, social media, don't y'all take it too seriously. I'm connecting with people all over the world.
Yes.
People I would have never been able to access through social media. So, Dr. Watson, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for answering the call, for coming on, for spending time with us today, sharing your story of resilience. I am hoping that you will definitely come back and visit.
Absolutely.
Yes. And keep us posted on all of your, with your book. Everybody's calling. Okay.
I'm available for some more questions. If there's some other questions that are out there, I got a couple more minutes here.
Okay, awesome. Anyone have any questions? Someone said it takes people inside to dismantle and disrupt.
Yeah.
Great points, great facts, great show, very inspirational. I am quite sure I'm going to get a whole lot of buzz. Any other questions for Dr. Watson while we still have him? Because I know he's a busy man, and I don't want to take up all of his time. We both have things to get done. Someone said, great session. Thank you, Antoinette.
Thank you.
Also, for those members of Omega Psi Phi, this is your fraternity brother. Oh. Yes.
That's right.
Yes. So
root to the good brothers out there.
Let me go ahead and let you do what you do. Let me go ahead and let you do it.
All right. There we go. Keep it calm here. We keep it clean here.
Yes, keep it calm and keep it clean. We love it. But we are just, again, we're so excited that you came and joined the show today. And we know that as the world starts to open up again, because COVID has shown us a whole lot.
Yeah.
And, when you brought up the story about what kids deal with and not thinking about those kids during a pandemic.
Absolutely.
What did they have to do when with the homeless shelters? That they want them out during the day, but there's nowhere for them to go. Schools are closed. So what pivoting had to take place, in that world?
Yes. Another piece I'll give you, even at the collegiate level, think about the number of kids who are living in homeless situations back home, and the pandemic happened, and they have to now leave the college. So one of the great things that Johnson C. Smith has done here in Charlotte, our fraternity donated $10,000 to the institution a couple years ago, but they kept their doors open for a lot of the homeless students. Great idea.
Yes.
When I was going back home in college, I didn't have anywhere to stay. So that's a great idea. So I hope more colleges and universities take up on that and know that just because it's a break or vacation doesn't necessarily mean it's a break or vacation for all of your students.
That is correct. That is correct. And that is, again, systemic.
Yes.
Saying, everybody has somewhere to go. Everybody has something to do over the break. A break means vacation.
Right.
Everybody's going to have fun. Everybody's in those videos at Miami Beach.
Right.
No, some people don't know where they're going. So yeah, it's absolutely positively amazing when schools step up, universities step up and realize we've got a diverse population here. We've got to make sure that we leave our doors open for students who don't have anywhere to go.
Absolutely.
Students who are from out of the country who can't go back home for right now.
Yeah.
So we're very grateful. I see a number of people, wonderful discussion. People were jumping in and out. This is a recorded session. You all can go back and revisit this broadcast on my page, Positive Wisdom, also on my YouTube page, as well as my personal Facebook page. I've sent a copy also to Dr. Watson. He'll make it available on his platforms as well. But again, we want to thank him so much for joining us. It's 11. We're going to turn you loose a little early today if there are no more questions. But we are just delighted that you all joined us for this robust, important discussion, overcoming obstacles. Any last words you want to say, Dr. Watson?
I just want to tell everyone to remember that our mindset dictates what we want. The challenges we go through in life, we got to change our perspectives on those mindsets. Sheryl Sandberg, who lost her husband, she's the author of Lean In. She lost her husband, and out of that came her next book called Option B. And she said, yes, I would love to be living my life with my husband, but the option B is I have 2 kids I have to take care of. So I have to make the best of option B. So whatever option B is given you in life, make the best of option B. Yes, it would have been great for me and my siblings to grow up in the environment that I'm in now. We didn't. So we had to make the best of what was given to us. So whatever your situation may be right now, make the best of it. And if it requires you going back and diving into your story, self-reflect, learn the lessons, take those lessons, share it with other people, and be sure to follow me. I'd love to be a coach and connect with you as well, though. So again, thanks for having me on as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who joined Positive Wisdom Talks this morning. We look forward to seeing you for more talks. Thank you so much for joining. Have an awesome, awesome day.